Hey, welcome back everybody to another episode review for last night's episode of The Walking Dead. This was Season 7, Episode 7, entitled Sing Me a Song. Now, this episode was crazy, alright? First of all, it was 90 minutes. And second of all, we got to see everybody that we love and care about back again in one episode, you know what I mean? It was sort of like all the communities and all the groups sort of come together in one episode instead of focusing particularly, on one situation or one group across the board, per episode, which is kind of what we did for the last, 5 episodes now? But we're back to finally getting them pretty much all in the same place, either that or in the same episode, So I thought it was great. We have Negan, we have Rick, we have Aaron going on, a supply run. We have Jesus, we have Carl, we have the Alexandrians, of course, Spencer, Rosita, and Eugene mainly, those three. But with that being said, it was a really great episode. I thought that it was a wonderful episode, and hopefully you guys did enjoy it if you guys did watch it. Now, with that being said, if you guys didn't watch it, make sure you guys turn away right now. Exit off this video, go watch the episode, then come back, because this is an episode review, which means it will contain spoilers. Now, since this episode did contain a lot of content, like quite a bit of content, I'm going to go over the main things, you know what I mean? It's not going to be a full recap or anything like that. I'm going to go over what I think was most important in the episode and what I sort of remember, right off the top of my brain, from the episode and what I, kind of thought about those things. So, first things first, the main part of the episode, you know what I mean? Like, this is not going to be in any chronological order whatsoever. So, what I'm talking about now, could have happened after, something else that I'm going to talk about later. But the main thing that I want to get right off my chest right now is that we've gotten it, guys. We got the Carl and Negan storyline from the comic books, and it was freaking glorious. Carl Chandler Riggs did an amazing job as Carl in this episode, like literally round of applause. I don't want to applause because, that would sort of just, be weird, and it would probably hurt your guys' ears if you guys are wearing earphones, so I'm going to hold off. But with that being said, amazing performance by Jeffrey Dean Morgan, in terms of Negan. And Chandler Riggs did an amazing job as Carl in this episode. He really did. He really showcased what he's made of. And it was, it was amazing. So what I'm talking about, okay? Basically in the comic books and now in the TV show, Carl sort of stows away on a truck, which, left Alexandria in the comic books, but here in the TV show, it left the hilltop. And he basically got to a sanctuary and ended up shooting a bunch of Negan's men and killing a few of his men. And then ultimately tried to kill Negan, but they got his gun from him, and then ultimately Negan sort of took him under his wing, you know what I mean? He brought him in Sanctuary, he introduced him to his way of life. And again, it was just an amazing episode in terms of even just that storyline right there, you know what I mean? I just thought it was amazing, Originally, Carl tricked Jesus into jumping out of the truck first because Carl wanted to go on and actually tried to assassinate Negan for killing 2 of his friends. That was his plan. And, Negan, you can tell the entire time is pretty much scared shitless of Carl. He outright says it, you know what I mean? I am actually scared of you. You are terrifying. You're a future serial killer. And all of that. We have all of those moments in there, from him showing Carl, what he does to people who disobey his rules, including ironing his, a guy's face, you know what I mean? I don't exactly remember his name, but we did see an ironing scene. We actually got to see it this time, because the first time that we know someone got ironed, probably before that too, was actually Dwight, you know what I mean? That was the first time we got to see the results of an iron mark, but we never got to see it happen, This time we did. I thought it was really cool. Dwight was getting it out of the furnace, and it looked great. It really did. The ironing scene looked absolutely amazing. They did wonderful, with the effects as, I would expect, And it was just a great scene, I can kind of see why they've been cutting corners in the last few episodes, because they have to really bulk up these last 2 episodes with so much content and, sort of impress us and wow us with the mid-season finale, especially next week, but also this episode as well. And, they did just that, they really did. They outdone themselves, to be honest. And, it's sort of a relief, it's sort of a relief, rather, that we're sort of back to, The Walking Dead really gaining momentum and gaining this pace to it, because it has been slow. I will totally 100% admit that, you know what I mean? I'm not stupid, I'm not a blind follower, but I understand, why it's been slow. Because if they just kept pace with the comic books, they'd be caught up in no time, you know what I mean? So they're trying to stretch some things out, explain the story a little more, give it some more development for us to understand, why Negan is like this, and, stuff like that. That's what I think they're trying to do. And they're not really doing a bad job at it, they're really not. So everybody in TV has to have a reason for why they are, who they are, as opposed to comic books, you don't really have to have that much of a backstory. You know what I mean? It's comic books. You can sort of just write it and go with it, right? But people, especially casual fans and stuff like that, will really have to sort of see it broken down to them in a way. And again, they're doing a wonderful job with it. And I'm definitely glad that they're keeping all these iconic comic book scenes in, including the Glenn death, you know what I mean? As horrifying as it was, I'm glad that it still, sort of was there. You know what I mean? I'm glad they didn't just kill Abraham and move on. Because the whole eye popping out thing is iconic. It's issue 100, and it's just absolutely insane. I'm glad they kept it in. As well as the Carl scene, here with Negan as well. Entering his compound, seeing, the way he lives his life and everything like that. I think it's a pretty big necessity to the show. And after all that, we also get to see, sort of Negan teasing with his wives, and we get to see, some backstory there with Negan explaining his life and stuff like that to Carl. You guys can watch the TV show if you guys really want to know, in detail about that. But I thought that whole sequence, of events there with Negan and Carl, I thought it was absolutely insane. I thought it was great. And again, I'm glad they kept it from the comic book. Another thing with Carl and Negan that we get to see Negan near the end of the episode basically take Carl home. There's some altercation throughout the episode with Carl and Daryl threatening them, saying if you hurt him or anything like that, what he'll do. But with that being said, we'll get into Daryl a little more later. But at the end of the episode, we get to see Negan sort of bring Carl back to Alexandria. This is what he did in the comic books, but he didn't quite make it to Alexandria in the comic books. Rick sort of was looking for Carl. He was looking for him, and he met Negan actually halfway in the comic books. But this time, Rick's out on a run, has no idea that Carl has done this, and Negan actually makes it all the way back to Alexandria. Now, with that being said, this is sort of like a pairing of two stories. Negan coming back to get supplies like he did in the comic books. I think about maybe the day after, he dropped Carl off to Rick, when he met him halfway. So now they're sort of combining it by not meeting him halfway and going completely to Alexandria. And I know what's going to happen next episode. But with that being said, that will be in the episode predictions, okay? So we're not going to go over that right now, but all I can say is that I'm freaking excited. You know what I mean? Like, I am absolutely ecstatic, for what's going to happen in next week's episode of The Walking Dead. Which, by the way, is also 90 minutes, which is just crazy. You know what I mean? We've had so many 90 bleh. That was tongue twistery. And that's not a word. That's definitely not a word. There's so many 90 minutes episodes and extended episodes within the season. It's just absolutely insane. You know what I mean? It really is. Like, they've really outdone themselves with the extended episodes this season. It's been crazy, It really has been. Anyways, like I said, Carl does make it back to Alexandria with Negan, and Negan ends up taking a tour of Alexandria with Carl. There's like a music montage there with it. It was kind of an eerie vibe, but at the same time, it was kind of funny and sort of lighter, to see the lighter side of Negan, but at the same time, that, there's something dark behind all of it. And you get to the point where Negan literally takes off his shoes. He's in his bare feet on carpet, squishing his toes into the carpet and stuff like that. He's actually throwing darts at a dartboard. And then he ultimately sits down at the end of the day on the porch, finds Judith in one of the rooms, and actually sits down with Judith and really takes a liking to Judith. Like, he actually likes the kid, you know what I mean? Like, he's I don't know, he's a baby lover, you know what I mean? It was sort of dark because Carl earlier in the episode basically asked him, why haven't you killed any of us yet? Why not me? Why not my dad? Why not Daryl? And there at the end, when he was holding Judith, he was talking to her, like sort of like a baby, like baby talk and stuff like that, and was like, maybe I should kill all of you, and maybe I should just take up residence here in Alexandria, because he really seems to like it there. He's sort of kicking his feet up there on the deck, and yeah, it's sort of back to like normal life for him. And he like I said, I think he really seems to like it there in Alexandria, which is nice to see. He's sort of enjoying himself as opposed to always being a threat or something like that. He doesn't really seem threatening right now. You know what I mean? But again, I think there's always something dark or bad, intentions behind Negan, I believe. But with that being said, he can be reasonable. He brought back Carl to Alexandria to give to Rick after Carl went out and killed like more of his men there at the sanctuary. You know what I mean? Like he brought him back, no harm done, literally nothing done to him whatsoever. And you know what I mean? Like that's pretty crazy, to be honest. You know what I mean? He has a deal with Rick, and he wants to hold that, and he's obviously not going to jeopardize that by hurting his son in any way. So anyway, that's the whole situation there with Carl and Negan. We're not going to try to sort of hit on that anymore. We've talked about it, I think, quite enough, but I was just so impressed with it, you know what I mean? That had to be the majority of this video. Now, as I said, we get to see a whole bunch of characters, including Rick and Aaron on that run, and Michonne, actually. This was actually in a sneak peek. She was whistling down the road, and we didn't really know what she was doing, and we get to find out later in the episode what she was doing, but she starts killing walkers, like tons of them, you know what I mean? She was luring them out there to pile them up, and ultimately lure a savior into, sort of getting out of their car, because she was using the walkers as a roadblock. And she ended up taking one of the saviors hostage to try to get her to take her to Negan. There ended up being a little bit of a squabble, but that's sort of where it ended, with her holding the savior at gunpoint, again, asking her to take her to Negan. So she definitely has, some intentions there, and I'm definitely interested to find out, what exactly those are. What is she planning on doing? Does she want to kill him? We thought that she agreed to sort of Rick's conditions and Rick's terms, but at the same time, it looks like she's, sort of going out on her own now, And again, I'm definitely excited to see what's going to happen there next episode, because that's where we left off with Michonne there. Now, in terms of, let's see. Jesus, he was a small part of the episode, but he was there again, firstly, there first with Carl in the back of the truck. Of course, he rolled out and ended up sort of going off on his own. We later get to see him in the episode be on top of the truck as Negan is leaving to bring Carl back to Alexandria. He was on top of one of the trucks, and it looks like he might have got off. I don't really know what happened to him, you know what I mean? He's like really quick, he's really fast, we don't really get to see what happened. But he was hiding on top of the truck that Negan was in, and then when the camera panned up when they were driving away, he wasn't on top of the truck anymore. And that's the last time we get to see Jesus in this episode. So I would like to assume that he probably made it into the compound, and he's probably in there right now. That's what I think would probably be the best answer, the best sort of explanation, for where he went. So that's that with, him. And of course, Daryl. We get to see Daryl in this episode really playing like a slave role, getting things for Negan and kneeling for Negan, of course. But at the same time, we still get to see that Daryl, you know what I mean, is still Daryl. Like he's holding to his values, you know what I mean? He's not completely submitting to Negan. He's just trying to stay alive, for the time being. And we get to see, again, him being a slave, carrying like a snack platter, and, sort of Dwight is sort of walking him around, being his, Daryl's sort of being his dog, in a way, like keeping him on a leash. And near the end of the episode is the most interesting part here with Daryl. Again, we don't really get to see much of him, just, some threats here or there, like trying to protect Carl and stuff like that after he found out that he was there. But at the end of the episode, or near the end of the episode, he receives a note when he's in his cell, where they played Easy Street and we all went crazy, but he received a note under the door. We don't know who from, because the note just came out of the door, and the note said, "Go now." You know what I mean? Like it was an urgent go now, like you only have this many seconds or whatever to get the hell out of here in one piece without anybody actually seeing you. So someone's trying to look out for him. Now, two people are on my mind. Jesus, for one, because we know that he's probably in the compound now, because the last time we saw him was on the truck, when Negan was leaving, and then we didn't see him there, so it's safe to assume that he got into the compound, and that's Jesus trying to get Daryl out of there, trying to give him sort of an opening, to get out of there. Another thing that is on my mind would be Dwight. Now, you guys might think that I'm crazy, but I have read the comic books, and I do have faith in Dwight. Dwight doesn't completely want to be there. He's not 100% committed at all times. You know what I mean? Like, we know that he's there because he wants to keep his wife, Sherry, safe. And at every opportunity that we see, Negan is just constantly pushing Dwight, pushing back and everything like this. And it's sometimes really uncomfortable to watch. And you're going to think, one of these days, Dwight is going to snap and turn on Negan. this could be this day. You know what I mean? He might be trying to get Daryl out of there. It said go now. It's sort of an anonymous, letter, and we might get to find out down the road that was Dwight that did that. But for now, I think that it's going to remain a secret, at least to us, So those are two options right there, or just two, actually. that would be four. Those are two options right there, either Dwight or Jesus, I think the most likely case would maybe be Dwight because, he sort of knows where Daryl is as opposed to Jesus. He might have seen, Dwight put him in that cell. But if he didn't see him, how would he just know that Daryl's in that cell and he slid the note under the door? You know what I mean? So if he was there scouting him out, watching him, him put Daryl in there, then that would be understandable. But with that being said, there's no real way to know that Daryl would be under that, in that cell and he would get the note. Anyways, that is pretty much where Daryl's story ends there for this episode. But with that being said, we do get to see him in the next one as well. The promo is crazy for next episode. I'm not going to go over it, of course. That'll be in my episode predictions for this week's up-and-coming episode, which will air on Thursday. So keep that in mind. The last group that we really have to go over, or I guess we actually have a few. We have Eugene and Rosita actually going off and trying to make bullets. Eugene's sort of reluctant to do it, but Rosita ultimately, sort of pushes him to do it. And he actually ends up making her a bullet in the end. They went to that place where Eugene and Abraham went last season. And, that's where Eugene makes a bullet. So Eugene has made his first bullet for Rosita. And, again, Rosita sort of bullied him into it. And they ended up making their way back to Alexandria. As well as Spencer. Spencer and Gabriel actually went out on a run. Gabriel ended up getting out of the car and walking back to Alexandria because Spencer was just nonstop, trash-talking Rick, saying that he hated him and everything like that. And Gabriel didn't want to really, stand there and hear that anymore because he really looks up to Rick now. You know what I mean? He used to be the one that sat there and trash-talked, Rick to Deanna and stuff like that, saying that he's dangerous and everything like that. But he's realized now that Rick is the one who's basically saved his life, who brought this group together and who's actually the good person, as opposed to Spencer, who's just an absolute dickhead at this point. He's basically saying, I could be a better leader. I could do a better job than Rick is right now. And again, Gabriel gets out of the car and actually, again, what's his name? Spencer ends up finding a walker with a compound bow. He gets that. And of course, he also gets some sort of a list. And he actually ends up reading it and finding some supply caches around, hidden around. And he brought most of that back to Alexandria. So he's planning on giving it to the Saviors, though. I don't know what's going to happen there, but that's definitely going to be interesting to find out, what's going to happen with him, especially being back at Alexandria. And Negan's back at Alexandria, too. That's a little clue what might happen next episode, all right? Spencer and Negan, same place. I'm just going to leave it there. If you guys haven't seen the comic book, believe me, you don't want this be spoiled for you. You know what I mean? It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. It's even going to be crazy for me. I know what happens. If that's what happens, I know what happens. And it's still going to be crazy to see. It really is. Now, the last group we get to see in this episode, again, is Rick and Aaron. We get to see them go out on a run. They sort of wake up in a boxcar. And they're just trying to, find supplies for Negan. Rick basically explains to Aaron, we only have today and only today to find something. They could be back, tomorrow. They could be back today even. We don't know when they're going to be back, obviously referring to the Saviors, trying to get their payment for the week or whatever, right? So that's where Rick and Aaron is. They're on a run to find supplies, and they actually come across an area that was supposed to be guarded. Okay, so they jump this gate and go past all of these warning signs explaining to them that they will be shot if they continue on and everything like this. And then they finally get to one, last warning sign that says basically, if you made it this far, that means one thing, I am dead. All right? And it's basically some guy guarding his belongings, his goods, his supplies in a houseboat, floating in the center of the pond. It's a big pond, and there's walkers in the pond and everything like that, and there's a houseboat in the center of the pond, you know what I mean? The only way to get to it is by swimming or taking some sort of a boat, and that's where Rick and Aaron end up, that's where they leave off, that's where their story leaves off. So they are very close to supplies, you know what I mean? It's pretty safe to say that there's still supplies in there because no one has actually, gone over there and gotten it because there's no boats or anything like that. There's walkers in the water, and it would just be, you know what I mean? Like that's death right there, and it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what they sort of come up with to get those supplies, because they do need supplies, you know. That's no matter what, they need them. So they have to risk it, and I have a feeling that they will. So I'm excited to see that in next week's episode of The Walking Dead as well. Again, next week's episode is a 90-minute mid-season finale. This is Season 7, Episode 8, entitled Hearts Still Beating. All right, everybody. So that's next week's episode. Make sure you tune into my episode predictions this week, this Thursday, rather, upcoming. And if you guys watch all my other videos and everything like that, make sure you guys check out my video that I will post tomorrow, and of course my videos that I posted in the last few days as well, because I think that you might enjoy them. I'm primarily a gaming channel, but with that being said, if you guys only watch my Walking Dead videos, then you know what I mean, just continue watching them on Thursday. That's pretty much all I ask from you, and yeah, you would make me happy, I guess. And anyway, that is my episode review for Season 7, Episode 7, entitled Sing Me a Song. Again, I thought it was a great episode, you know what I mean? Like, they really got back on the ball here with The Walking Dead. You know, it really is. Like, it's entertaining as crap now, and it's definitely not boring anymore. If anybody says that it's boring, you're insane, you know? So that was a 90-minute episode. Again, next week's episode, 90 minutes. I guess next week's episode will be the third 90-minute episode this season. And with that being said, I think every single episode but one has been extended to like an hour and 5 minutes, which is just, it's crazy. We haven't had that before, you know? So I'm definitely excited. So thank you all so much for watching again. And, well, I guess that's it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, everybody. Bye. It's been a while since I've done Sunday Lazy Vlog, but I thought that I should get back to it, or at least for this week, alright? So, I do have some things to show you, like my updated setup with my microphone, or Blue Yeti, whatever you want to call it, and